Appreciate the 3 glasses of water. Folks know me. Drink lots of water. I'm going to miss Francois doing that for me. Francois has refilled this probably like 12 times in press conferences. We get a little nod at each other each time. Yesterday I talked about, I wanted to make sure Canadians knew that we were going to keep on fighting for them. And I wanted that to be really clear, that we are going to keep on fighting for the things that people need. We heard a lot of things over this campaign. There are a lot of needs out there, and we are going to keep on fighting for people. So I wanted that to be really clear. So I didn't want to take up too much time, but I want to take a little time today to talk about the incredible team. And I just want to highlight some of the most important people in this campaign. Our campaign director and my chief of staff, Jennifer Howard. She's done an incredible job. She ran an incredible campaign. So proud to call her a friend and our campaign director, and she led us with an incredible campaign that we are so proud of. And I feel like she represents the entire team. If I can say one person's name, she can represent lots of folks. But I also want to shout out our national director, Anne McGrath, who led us to be in a position to be able to run such a successful campaign with the resources that we needed to get our message out there, and most importantly, to hear from people. So big shout out to Anne McGrath. Thank you so much, my friend. And you probably noticed someone that stole the show pretty much throughout the campaign, someone who people wanted to see more of than me, because she lit up the room and she had so much energy and passion while like fully pregnant. Big shout outs to Gurkidin, who made this journey so much more, not just easier, but so much more fun. She brings joy to my days. She brings joy to everybody, and she brought joy to Canada, and she cares deeply. She was so impacted when she met people in Ishkandiga, the community there, young people there, and really reminds me of what we're doing here. We're here to fight for people, and I couldn't have done this without her, so I wanted to give a big thank you to Gurkidin. And with that, I wanted to also do this in French. Donc, hier, j'ai voulu souligner comment on serait là pour les gens, on va continuer de se battre pour les gens, et c'était important de rassurer les gens. Donc, aujourd'hui, je vais prendre un moment pour aussi remercier mon équipe. J'ai eu une équipe incroyable. Chaque membre de mon équipe, c'est vraiment incroyable. Every member of my team is literally amazing. They're the best of the best. Mais si je peux, je veux souligner 2 personnes. Ma directrice de la campagne, Jennifer Howard, pour la campagne, et elle représente toute l'équipe comme directrice. Donc, un grand merci pour mon ami et chef de cabinet, quelqu'un extraordinaire. Et aussi, je veux remercier mon directrice nationale, Anne McGrath, qui fait un travail acharné chaque jour et qui a donné les ressources avec son engagement et son effort. Nous avait donné les ressources nécessaires pour faire cette campagne. Donc, un grand merci à ma directrice nationale. Et puis, quelqu'un qui a vraiment volé la scène, le spectacle à plusieurs reprises, quelqu'un qui amène une joie de vivre, une positivité incroyable, c'est ma conjointe. Elle a une énergie aussi extraordinaire et elle a fait tout ça enceinte. Donc, c'est vraiment incroyable. Je suis tellement fier d'avoir une partenaire dans cette aventure comme elle, une conjointe comme elle. Donc, un grand merci à Gurkidin. Et puis, aussi, j'ai voulu dire 2 choses de plus. I want to also just point out, I'm happy with some of the incredible new MPs that we've elected. They're going to be a force. But I'm really disappointed that there are some really incredible people that fought really hard, that poured their hearts in, and that would have made incredible members of parliament, that would have really lifted the voices of so many people in their communities and would have made our parliament a better place. And I'm disappointed that they were not able to join us in Ottawa. It's a loss, not just for me as a leader and not just for New Democrats as a team, but it's a loss for Canada, some of these really incredible candidates that would have really made a big difference. So I want to just express I'm sad about that loss. It would have been a really good thing for Canadians. Donc, je veux aussi mentionner comment c'est dommage qu'il y a des députés qui ont perdu, qui auront pu aider beaucoup les gens de leur comté, qui auront pu avoir une contribution extraordinaire pour le Canada, pas seulement pour mon équipe, mais pour tout le Canada. Donc, c'est dommage. Et je suis triste qu'ils n'ont pas eu la chance de nous joindre à Ottawa et d'ajouter leur voix pour aider les gens. And with that, I'm ready for any questions you might have.
Première question, first question, Annie Bergeron-Oliver, CTV News.
Hi, Mr. Singh. Right now, you're only up one seat, but you put more money into this campaign than ever before. You have far more name recognition than you did in 29, and you had a much more aggressive campaign. So what do you think went wrong that this time didn't really change compared to 2019?
Well, you know, I think that this is, on our part as a party, Mr. Trudeau's calling the election. I'll come to that. I don't think that was a good decision. But I'm really proud that we were able to use the resources and time that we had to hear from people. And more importantly, to share their stories. The fact that we were able to take a national campaign and highlight the plight of a lot of people. We were able to talk to workers in Alberta who right now are at the brink. We met ICU nurses that were in tears about how horrible things are in healthcare because of cuts to healthcare, and how important it is for us to fight for healthcare, to fight for those workers and fight for people so that they can get the care they need. We went to Niskandiga. This is an Indigenous community that hasn't had clean drinking water for 27 years. To take our national campaign there and to give people a voice, to give a platform to those people, I think is time and resources well spent. So I'm proud that we were able to run a campaign that lifted up people from coast to coast to coast. We were able to share stories and to fight for what people care about and to hear from them. And that's something I'll never regret.
And your party spent a lot of effort on social media. It seemed like this was a key strategy this time, you know, spending more than $10 million to push your image out on TikTok. You did Twitch, Facebook, 22 million Facebook ads. But it doesn't seem like that translated into votes or into increased support. Do you think it was the wrong strategy to focus so much of your time on social media and digital media?
Well, I think it's important to be able to reach out to people and using the tools that we have to connect with people where they are. And there's lots of folks that use social media. It's a place where people gather. It's a place where people share ideas, and it's important for us to be present there. In terms of the turnout, I think it's, to me, one of the really troubling parts about this campaign or this election has been that one of the reasons why we said Mr. Trudeau should never call it, he claimed that he wanted to hear from people. Well, this is the lowest turnout despite one of the biggest crises we've ever faced. And a lot of that is because there were some changes that we wanted to bring to the Elections Act that would have made it easier for people to vote, that both the Liberals and Conservatives held up in Parliament and didn't allow to pass. And so what we saw was really discouraging to people. Really, really long wait times, really difficult access to voting, less places to vote, less access for young people to vote on campus. We're hearing really terrible stories. Folks saw the images. People in Toronto that are voting underneath the Gardiner. It's a really busy highway in the dark, having to line up underneath a highway in the dark to vote. These are not the conditions of how things should have been. We heard from Indigenous communities that were told if you got advanced voting, you're not going to get a polling station on the day of the election. Like these are pretty bad things. Like we pride ourselves on being a democracy where we want to make it easy for people to vote. And what we saw was not that. And I blame Mr. Trudeau because he called an election without having laws in place that would have allowed us to make adjustments so that we could make sure there was easier ways to vote in a pandemic. And that was a huge failure on the part of Mr. Trudeau.
Prochaine question, Jean-Sébastien Cloutier, Radio-Canada.
Bonjour, M. Singh. J'aimerais vous entendre sur vos résultats décevants quand même au Québec. Seulement 10% des intentions de vote. Un seul député élu. C'est pas beaucoup, M. Singh, si on regarde M. Layton, qui avait eu 59 sièges pour un parti national implanté depuis des années, comme le NPD. Pouvez-vous me dire une ou deux raisons, m'expliquer pourquoi vous pensez que ça plafonne au Québec?
Premièrement, on ne lâche pas. Je vais continuer de me battre pour les Québécois et Québécoises. On serait là encore au Québec. On va faire de la campagne au Québec, mais plus important, on va continuer de gagner des victoires pour aider les Québécois et Québécoises. Vous pouvez rester sûr. Je vais retourner tout de suite à Montréal, au Québec en général. Je serai là. Et je veux dire que j'ai jamais pensé que c'était un travail facile. Je sais que ça prend du temps pour gagner la confiance des gens. Je vais continuer. Je vais continuer. Je ne lâche pas. Et plus important, je vais même peu importe les nombres des députés au Québec, notre équipe va travailler pour tout le Canada. Ça inclut les gens au Québec, donc vous pouvez rester sûr, on serait là. Mais je suis bien sûr déçu. Je suis déçu que les députés incroyables comme Ruth Ellen Brousseau ne seront là, ne seront pas à Ottawa encore. Donc, je pense que c'est un manque pour notre équipe, oui, mais c'est aussi un manque pour tout le Parlement du Canada de ne pas avoir des députés comme elle et les autres candidats de notre équipe au Québec, Nima Machouf, François Charquette, Brigitte Sans-Souci, Eve Peclette. On avait des candidats et candidates excellents. Et c'est un manque pour notre équipe, mais aussi pour le Québec et le Canada, qu'ils ne seront pas à Ottawa.
In English, please.
I want to send a message to Quebecers that we'll never give up. We will always fight for you. We'll never stop fighting. And I want you to know we're going to be back in Quebec as soon as possible. We're going to be back in Montreal and in other parts of Quebec. I look forward to that. And I want you to know that we will fight for you. No matter what number of MPs we have from Quebec, we will always fight for all of Canada, and that includes Quebec. We'll make sure that you are heard, your concerns are listened to, and we are fighting for you. And that being said, I am, though, disappointed. Of course, I'm disappointed that incredible MPs that we had, incredible candidates that we have, are not returning as MPs or not coming to Ottawa as MPs. I think that's a loss for our team, but it's also a loss for Quebec and for Canada and for the Parliament. So I'm disappointed. I'm sad to not see that Ruth Ellen will be back in Ottawa. I think she's already shown to be an incredible voice, would have been a great voice again. Our other candidates, incredible folks like Nima Machouf, Eve Peclette, François Choquette, Brigitte Sans-Souci. We had lots of incredible candidates that I wish would have been joining me in Ottawa because they would have been great voices for their communities and would have done a really good job fighting for them.
Par ailleurs, est-ce que vous pensez que les appels répétés de Justin Trudeau pour le vote stratégique vous a nui parfois dans certaines circonscriptions encore cette année?
Je pense que c'est souvent une question comment les gens vont voter et les libéraux toujours à leur argument pourquoi les gens doivent voter. Et pour moi, je veux toujours... Un instant. Pour moi, je veux toujours montrer comment on peut se battre pour les gens, qu'on peut bâtir mieux et c'est possible de faire mieux. Et on va continuer de montrer notre option. Et les choses que les gens m'ont dit continuent d'être les grands enjeux, la crise du logement, la crise de soins de santé et la crise du climat. Et ça continue et on va continuer de faire notre travail pour montrer qu'on peut faire mieux, on peut bâtir une meilleure société. En anglais. Appreciate that, CP. Yeah, the Liberals are always going to have their argument. They're going to make their case at the end of the election. We're always going to say the better is possible. We don't have to be stuck with these options. And we're going to continue to let folks know that we can do better, that we can do things better. We can fight the climate crisis. We can tackle the housing crisis, the things that people need in Quebec and across Canada. We can do better. We can do better, and people can be better off. And we'll always fight for that, and we'll always let folks know that there is a better way forward.
Prochaine question, Claudie Côté, TVA Nouvelle.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Félicitations, M. Singh, pour votre réélection d'abord. Je vais vous poser une question concernant le Québec.
Oui.
À quelques reprises, le premier ministre François Legault a mis en garde les électeurs, a même qualifié de dangereux un gouvernement centralisateur formé par le Parti libéral ou encore par votre parti. Ce matin, les électeurs se réveillent avec un gouvernement minoritaire libéral. Vous aurez à vous allier, vous allez certainement le faire avec le Parti libéral pour les prochaines années. Est-ce que les relations avec le Québec vont s'envenimer? Est-ce que les Québécois doivent être inquiets de ça?
Non, pas du tout. Au lieu de ça, les gens au Québec doivent être rassurés. Avec l'NPD, on va chercher des gains pour les Québécois et Québécoises, comme on a fait dans la pandémie. Donc, pour moi, je veux plaire les gens au Québec. Je veux répondre aux besoins des gens. Je ne suis pas ici pour répondre aux demandes d'un gouvernement. Je suis ici pour aider les gens. Et si je peux faire quelque chose qui va améliorer la qualité de vie des gens, quelque chose qui va sauver des vies, je veux toujours être là. Je vais toujours être là pour aider les gens. Donc, les gens au Québec, comme on a fait pendant la pandémie, quand les gens ont eu besoin d'aide financière directe, c'était nous qui avons forcé le gouvernement de doubler la PCU. Même, on est toujours dans une pandémie et les gens au Québec peuvent être sûrs et confiants qu'on va continuer de vous aider. Je sais que la subvention salariale, la PCU, a aidé des millions de Québécois et Québécoises. Donc, vous pouvez être sûr qu'avec une équipe forte du NPD, on va continuer de vous aider et de répondre à vos besoins. Oui, écoutez, vous êtes inquiet pour la crise climatique, la crise du logement. Vous voulez qu'on investisse dans le soin de santé. On va continuer de travailler fort pour réaliser ces buts.
Merci.
Merci.
La question vous a un peu été posée, mais je vais me permettre de vous la reposer parce que vous vous dites déçu des résultats, particulièrement au Québec, mais je pense que c'est le cas partout au Canada. Qu'est-ce qui ne fonctionne pas? Pourquoi votre message ne semble pas être entendu?
Je suis plus. C'est pas exactement que je suis déçu des résultats. Je suis déçu que les gens à travers le pays ne vont pas avoir des députés néo-démocrates parce que je sais que les députés néo-démocrates sont les meilleurs pour se battre pour les gens. Et je pense de plusieurs candidats et candidates dans notre équipe qui, dans mon avis, auront pu être des voix fortes au Québec, à Ottawa pour les Québécois et Québécoises, mais aussi pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes. Donc, je suis déçu parce que c'est un manque, comme j'ai dit, pour notre équipe, mais aussi c'est un manque pour les gens dans leur comté, et c'est un manque pour le Canada, pour le Québec, c'est un manque pour le Parlement. Donc, ça, c'est pourquoi je suis déçu. Et donc, on va continuer. Je veux, comme j'ai dit, mon but, c'est de devenir le prochain Premier ministre. Donc, ce travail reste et on va continuer. Donc, on va continuer de proposer des alternatives, on va continuer de travailler sur le terrain et on va continuer de s'assurer les gens que notre priorité, c'est de vous aider et on va continuer de montrer comment on peut le faire.
Mais pourquoi ça n'a pas fonctionné?
Next question.
Pourquoi ça n'a pas fonctionné?
Et c'est une bonne question. On va continuer de travailler pour montrer notre option pour les Québécois et Québécoises et pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes.
Next question, Karina Roman, CBC News.
Good morning. What do you need to see from Justin Trudeau in terms of concrete measures, in terms of legislation to continue supporting the government, and where would you be willing to compromise?
Well, we've laid out our priorities throughout the campaign, and those priorities remain. And they're priorities because they're what we've heard from people. People are wanting they want to get through this pandemic, so they need help to get through it. That's top of mind. We've heard from a lot of people that are worried about the healthcare system. And we spoke with a lot of healthcare workers who are really at their end. They're really burnt out. Nurses had a national day of action and this is a national day of action across Canada because nurses as frontline workers are saying they are overworked, they are understaffed, under-resourced, their conditions at work are untenable, the shortages are just unbearable, and so these workers need help. And more importantly, they need help so they can actually care for people. And so that's top of mind. How do we help people out? How do we invest in our healthcare? How do we deal with the immediate urgent risk facing our healthcare system? And how do we invest in frontline healthcare workers to make sure they've got good work conditions, good pay, and there's enough staff to deal with the needs of people?
How would you assess the leverage you have going forward, though? You're still the fourth party, not the third party. We're going to go into a government that everyone knows no one wants to fall, so you don't have that threat because we don't want another election. So what would you say about what kind of leverage you have to actually get those things done?
Well, we were really clear throughout the pandemic. We didn't want the government to fall because we're in a pandemic, we're in a crisis. We always knew that it was the wrong thing to do to force an election. But we were very successful. We were the most successful opposition party in delivering help to people because we were focused on what people needed. We heard from people that said when they were losing their jobs because of lockdowns, and they needed money to be able to pay their bills, to stay at home. We were the ones that fought to increase CERB. Many times the Liberals wanted to cut it, and we fought to keep it going because we knew people needed help. And we knew that the wage subsidy had to be enough to keep people employed. So we used our position successfully to win some really big victories for people, for Canadians. They were better off because we were there. And we'll do the same thing. We're not looking for ways to force an election. We think that's not the goal. And Canadians sent us a clear message. They want us to continue working. They want us to get back to work. We want to get back to work to do exactly what Canadians need. And so we'll do that. We'll fight to make sure there's more help for people. We'll fight to make sure there's investments in healthcare. And despite our number, we were the most successful opposition party in the last parliament, and this parliament looks pretty much the same. And we'll continue to do the work that we did before, so Canadians can rest assured we'll be there for them.
Next question, Alex Bellingall, Toronto Star.
Morning, Mr. Singh. So this campaign, you had much more money than last time. The Greens were obviously weak. Trudeau was potentially vulnerable. Your likability numbers far exceeded the likability numbers of your rival leaders. And yet, at this point, you have one extra seat, maybe a couple more. After this campaign, with all of those factors, do you feel secure in your leadership with that result?
Yes.
And just on working in the next parliament, you spent the campaign really going after Trudeau, alleging that he can't be trusted, that he's not the type of progressive politician that he says he is. After undermining his trust and arguing to Canadians that he can't be trusted, how can you work with him in the next parliament?
Everything I said was true, and so I'm going to stand beside it. But I'm going to go back and say, you messed up, but doesn't mean we can't still work to get things done for Canadians. And I stand by that.
Next question, Robin Gill, Global News.
Mr. Singh, have you spoken with Justin Trudeau at all, and was he willing to negotiate anything, any of your agendas or any of your issues that you have been campaigning on?
Yes, we spoke. I congratulated him, but we didn't get into details about any sort of negotiations. I let him know that, as always, when it comes to helping out people, we're going to be there. If it's something that's going to help people out, make people's lives better, we will not hesitate to provide support to get things done. And he knows my priorities, and so we didn't get into those details, but I just made it clear that, like before, if it's something around anything that we promised to deliver on, pharmacare, something we care deeply about, we will work to make that happen. Childcare, of course, we care deeply about. We've long fought for making sure women, families have access to affordable, accessible daycare and childcare. It's fundamental. It's something really important. So, of course, we can be counted on for the things that are going to help people out. We'll always be there. If it comes to hurting people, he'll probably try to work with the Conservatives, but he's not going to find support from us when it comes to hurting people.
Français, s'il te plaît.
Do you feel...
I was going to do it in French real quick. Give me 1 second. I was going to do that in French, then we'll come right back to that question. J'ai parlé avec M. Trudeau et je lui ai félicité pour les élections, pour devenir le Premier ministre. Et j'ai encore répété ce que j'ai dit en avant, le fait qu'on va continuer d'être prêt à appuyer des mesures pour aider les gens. Donc, l'assurance médicaments universelle, c'est quelque chose qu'on a déjà dit qu'on veut réaliser un tel programme. Donc, vous pouvez compter sur notre appui pour ça. Un système de garde ou investissement de notre système de garde, c'est quelque chose qu'on croit profondément. C'est important d'avoir plus des investissements, plus d'accessibilité. Donc, pour les mesures comme ça, on va toujours être là. Si M. Trudeau veut faire quelque chose pour aider les gens, on est prêt. Mais si c'est une mesure qui va qui va nuire les gens ou faire blesser les gens, elle peut chercher l'appui des conservateurs, mais pas de nous. OK.
Your party had great expectations in this campaign. Do you feel like it was a big disappointment?
Well, we're in a great position to continue fighting for people. I'm pumped about the important work that we have to do, so I'm ready to get back to work. We had the same position in the last parliament, and we were able to secure a lot of really important victories, some of the most notable victories that any opposition party has ever been able to secure for Canadians in recent memory. So we're going to continue to do that work, and we're confident that we'll be able to do that. I'm disappointed, but not so much electorally in the sense that we're not able to do our work. We're going to still be able to fight hard for people. I'm just disappointed that there are a lot of really good candidates that we had running on our team that would have been really good voices for people. They would have really helped out people. They would have been there to fight for their communities in a really, really special way. And I'm disappointed that they're not going to be able to do that work in Ottawa because they would have been great. But in terms of our position, we're in the same position we were before, and we were in a great position to fight for Canadians, and we'll do that again.
Next question, Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News.
Good morning, Mr. Singh.
I miss you, Francois.
You were on the offense for the past 5 weeks,
Yeah.
visiting 51 ridings, and the NDP spent about $25 million on this campaign, and yet you're only increasing your seat count by one, maybe a few more seats. What went wrong, and what do you need to rethink?
Well, we have the same parliament that was chosen there before. Canadians made their choice, and I respect their decision. We're going to continue working hard. Folks can always count on that from us. We're always going to work hard to make sure Canadians know that you can count on us. If you need help, if you need someone that's got your back, that's us. We'll keep on doing that. And I look forward to keep on doing that work that we've already done and to keep on fighting for you. So we're here.
Do you think you've hit your ceiling as leader?
No.
Why?
I haven't.
Why?
Next question,
Have it.
Menaka Raman-Wilms, The Globe and Mail.
Hello, Mr. Singh.
Hey there.
In 2016, NDP members voted against Mulcair's continued leadership of the party after he won 44 seats in 2015, and that's more than you've secured now in 2 consecutive elections. So why are you so confident that you will maintain the support of members to lead the party a 3rd time?
We ran a campaign that our party is and our members are really proud of. And we fought really hard, and we showed what we're all about, and we're going to continue to do that. So I feel really confident about that. And more importantly, I want Canadians to know they can be confident about the fact that we'll be there again in Ottawa fighting to make sure you get more help. That's what we did in the pandemic, and we'll continue to do that.
Earlier this week, you said that a wealth tax was your #1 priority in a minority government situation. So which specific measures of the proposal do you want to see implemented, and would you hold back supporting the government on this issue?
Well, the question really, the fundamental question that comes up and people are worried about is who's going to pay the price of the pandemic. And we certainly don't believe it should be you or your families. We don't believe it should be workers, the working class, middle class. We don't believe it should be small businesses. And so we remain resolute that it should be the ultra-rich, the billionaires that pay their fair share. When it comes to the fights for Canadians right now, the #1 thing that's on people's mind is actually is healthcare, is getting through this pandemic, is a crisis in our healthcare system, is the fact that a lot of healthcare workers are burnt out, and there's really, nurses have been crying out for a long time that the situation is really bad. It's at a disaster point. And so that's going to be something we work on right away, getting help to get through this pandemic, getting help to our healthcare system, our healthcare workers, so that people can know that if they or their loved ones need help, that our healthcare system will be there for them.
Next question, Kelly Malone, The Canadian Press.
As my colleagues pointed out, this election you had more money, you polled higher, and unlike in 2019, people knew who you were and who you are as a leader. So where do the New Democrats go from here outside of Parliament to grow ahead of the next election to get more seats if there is an election again in 2 years?
Well, our goal, our first and foremost goal, the reason why I want to be Prime Minister isn't just because I want the title, is because we want to help people. We want to fight to make things better for people. So that's going to be our first goal right now. We are going to go back to Ottawa, and we're going to fight for people. We've got a new team. We're going to have some new MPs, and we're going to get down to work to say, what can we do to make life better for Canadians? That's our goal. That's our #1 goal. That will always be our #1 goal. And when it comes to gaining the confidence of Canadians, we'll do that. We're never going to give up. We know that that's not an easy path, and I never thought it was going to be easy. But most importantly for us, and the way we gain trust for Canadians, is to do what's always been our goal, fighting for people, getting them the help they need. Right now, it's getting through the pandemic. It's making sure our healthcare system is there for people, and we'll do that. We're going to fight for you.
And to what degree do you think that strategic voting hurt your party?
I think the bigger problem that we're up against for us as a party is we believe that better is possible, that we can do better. And I think there is a lot of cynicism. And I think that cynicism has been fed by people like Mr. Trudeau, who said a lot of great things, and when they don't do them and people end up hurting because of that, it increases cynicism. And it's hard to imagine that things can be better. And I think that's really one of the biggest challenges we're up against is letting folks know, or having folks really start to believe that we can do better. And I hope to do that. I hope to reinstill that faith and that hope that better is possible. We can make things better. We can fix the problems we're up against. If we make things a priority, they get fixed. And I want Canadians to know that. And so I'll keep on working on it.
Mackenzie Gray, CTV News.
Good morning, Mr. Singh.
Yeah, good morning.
Polls have consistently shown that you're the most liked leader in this country, and that Mr. Trudeau and Mr. O'Toole are disliked by roughly 50% of Canadians. But despite that, Mr. Trudeau is still the Prime Minister. Despite that, Mr. O'Toole won 100 seats. And despite that, you're still the leader of the fourth party. Why can't you turn your personal popularity into more seats for the NDP?
Good question. I'm not, like, it's an honor. I'm thankful. I appreciate that people have a positive feeling towards me. But when I say this, I really mean it. That's good. That's all well and good. I'm really here because I want to make a difference. And in the last Parliament, I said this throughout the campaign, I meant it. I was pretty honored and amazed at how much we got done despite being the fourth party, despite only having 24 seats at the time. So whatever the number turns out to be, I know we'll be in a similar position to get stuff done for people. My goal will always be to form government, but it's because I think I can make a difference in people's lives. So I'm going to use the position I have to make a difference in people's lives, to try to make things better, to help people get through this pandemic, to give people hope, to let them know that there's someone fighting for you. That's really my ultimate goal. That's the most important thing. I just know that having seen what we're able to do in a minority government with only 24 seats, I know in my heart we can make this country so much better. We could do so much more good for people if we form government. So I'm going to keep on fighting. I'm, as you know, I'm a fighter. I'm relentless. I will never back down. And I believe that we'll make a difference in people's lives, and we're going to keep on showing that is possible and that people should believe in it.
There are a lot of disappointed New Democrats out there this morning, including a number of MPs who you went to visit them in their ridings, and people who thought that they were going to be re-elected, including Ruth Ellen Brousseau and Tracy Ramsey, two particular people. You say that you're confident in your leadership of the party, so can you give us your pitch to those disappointed MPs in your caucus and to other candidates who ran about why you were not able to get more seats in last night's election?
Well, those are some really good names to talk about when I think about people that I'm disappointed aren't going to be able to go back to Ottawa, because Ruth Ellen Brousseau, folks who know her, she was an incredible voice for Berthier-Masconoget. She was a powerful voice for farmers, for people in the agriculture sector, and people were better off with her as their MP. She benefited them. And it's a loss to not just our movement, but it's a loss to that community that she's not going to go back to Ottawa. Tracy Ramsey was a fierce fighter for people and still is. And was a fierce fighter as an MP and continued that in her community work. And so people are going to be worse off because she's not there for them. And that's a loss for me, for sure, as a leader. It's a loss for our team, but it's a bigger loss for Essex. The people of Essex are worse off because she's not there. But that's the story for people across the country with our great candidates that fought so hard, that ran great campaigns. Their losses are a loss to Canada, to Parliament, to people. And that's what I'm disappointed about. But in terms of campaign we ran a great campaign. We're proud of the work we did, proud of the people that we connected to and the stories that we shared. And we're going to go back and keep on fighting.
This concludes our press conference. Thank you. Merci.
Cheers.